moving into the second part of chapter 10. This is one of my favorite lectures of the year because I love to gross people out. It makes my heart happy.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so we've already lectured over bacteria with regards to just like what they're like and what they do in nature. And now we're going to look at what happens when the wrong sort of creature sets up house inside a person. Okay. Which is awesome.
Oh yeah. He's like,
Would it be a bad idea?
So this was one of my favorite classes in college.
Don't eat that. It's not really with you.
Ladies, I had one of my favorite classes in college was Mechanisms of Human Disease. And Dr. Lynn, if you ever see this, it was a great class. Thanks for all the awesome pictures. I hope to condense all kinds of wonderful gross outedness into one class period for you. So if you are currently eating, God bless you.
I know.
Here we go. Okay, so take a moment and write this down. Any organism which invades the body and causes a disease is called a pathogen. So a pathogen is anything that gets inside you and makes you sick. It can be any kind of creature. You can have insects inside you that make you sick. You can have worms inside you that make you sick. Most of the time, though, the sort of creature that has gotten inside your body and makes you sick is a bacteria or a virus, which is why we're going to talk about it now in the chapter about bacteria and viruses. They can be protists, which you will meet in the next chapter. They can be, animals, for example, worms. Worms can make you ill. Tapeworms, and hookworms, and heartworms, and lungworms, and even worms in your eyeball. It's great. Okay. So the study of how a disease works and is caused and all that is the name of that science is etiology. So you can take classes in etiology. If anybody winds up in the medical profession, you will take several classes on etiology, looking at different types of diseases and how they are caused and what happens to you. Robert Koch in the 1700s coined that phrase for that sort of scientific inquiry. So we've had that word since then. Okay? So if you get the common cold, you have a disease, and the pathogen is the cold virus. If you get leprosy, you have a disease, and the pathogen is a bacteria. If you get strep throat, you have a disease, and the pathogen is bacteria. Now, if you get lupus, there's no creature that crawled inside your body and made you ill. So lupus is a disorder that is not caused by a pathogen. So not every problem in your body is a disease. We use the word disease to mean something that is wrong with you because a creature lives inside you that shouldn't. Okay? A disorder is something where your body just broke because something went wrong. So I have type 2 diabetes, and I have that not because any creature came and lived inside of me, but because when I was a young adult, I ate too many Twinkies, right? So that's not any pathogen's fault, it's my fault. And so that's kind of the difference between a disease and a disorder. Pathogens cause diseases. Most of the time, pathogens are bacteria and viruses. Sometimes they're bigger creatures. So, oops, wrong direction. So, just general pictures of bacteria and viruses. There are some really cool looking shapes out there. Viruses come in lots of neat designs. Bacteria, most bacteria are kind of boring to look at. You saw lots of examples of bacteria in the microscope the last couple of days, and most of them look sort of like this, but some of them are really awesome. Some bacteria have multiple flagella like this. Some bacteria have other, strange shapes to their body, and so some of them look really awesome. God is the creator of all things, including pathogens, and so, we can glorify God for the beauty of a virus as well. This is another example of a pathogen. This happens to be a fungus. and funguses can be pathogens as well. What kind of diseases are caused by funguses? Athlete's foot, yay!
Ew.
And fungal infections in your scalp cause dandruff, and fungal infections in your armpits can also happen. Fungal infections of your fingernails can occur. Ringworm, just in any old place of your body, it's not a worm, it's a fungus. So yeah, funguses can also be pathogens. This is a hookworm. Hookworms can be pathogens. They can get inside your skin and feed on your body fluids in your skin. And they're very, very small, and they don't hurt when they get inside your body, and so you don't necessarily know that they've gotten in you. Once it gets infected and everything, then obviously you're like, wow, what's that? But you don't feel the worm crawl into your skin. This is Giardia. This guy totally looks like an owl. Yeah, don't confuse him with our school mascot. Giardia is a protist, and Giardia is a very, very common bug to pick up by drinking natural water sources. Excuse me. Natural water sources like drinking from a lake or from a stream without filtering the water well. And it causes really, really bad diarrhea. Like, oh my gosh, you wish you were dead kind of diarrhea. If you've ever heard of Montezuma's Revenge, is that phrase ever come into your life? Okay, Montezuma's Revenge is called what it is because white people invaded Mexico, and the people who lived in Mexico and drank the natural water sources, their body was immune to Giardia. And then all of these Spanish conquistadors come to Mexico, and they fight back the natives there. And one of the kings that they removed was Montezuma. And then after they removed Montezuma and his kingdom and took over, they started drinking the natural water sources, and all of them got this ridiculous diarrhea. And that's why it's called Montezuma's Revenge. So this is the creature that causes that. But yeah.
So it's a bug or a parasite?
It's a protist. It's a protist. So it's a single-celled organism that makes you very, very sick. Okay. So how do pathogens make you sick? There's 3 stages to a disease. The first stage is incubation, and that's when the pathogen is in you and it's multiplying. You probably swallowed 1 egg to a tapeworm, or you probably swallowed 1 individual Giardia, or you probably got infected by 1 hookworm that burrowed through the skin of your foot, because you walk around barefoot all the time, Leah. Or you know, whatever else happened. You got 1 thing in you. Somebody coughed and you inhaled right at the right time, right? And so you got a thing in you, and then there's a period of time when it is multiplying inside you. And during this period of incubation, you're usually not sick. And so you feel fine. And the pathogen has not built up to a level in your body where it's making you ill. And then there comes a point where your body starts to break down. Your tissues in your body are starting to be eaten by the creature. And at that point, you know you're sick. Things start to not work right because you are now food for something else that should not be inside you. And so that's when you start to express symptoms. And you're like, wow, this is not good. If Caleb coughs and he has strep throat, even if he looks away and coughs, and then a couple of seconds later, Shailene walks through his cloud, okay, and takes a breath. Shailene now has inhaled strep throat, right? And it lands in her throat, and she feels fine for a couple of days until the strep throat bacteria have multiplied to the point where they start to eat her throat. Okay? Now your body starts to be aware of this problem and says, wow, I'm being eaten by bacteria. Let me try to get rid of this. And so she starts coughing because it's trying to remove the bacteria and throw off all the dead cells that are inside the throat. Okay? But even before she started to cough, the bacteria that were multiplying in there sometimes came out just as she was breathing. Before she went really hard, she was still spreading her bug, and she didn't even know she was sick. And so Leah walks through her cloud during the exhale, and it's not like, oh, Shailene just coughed. No, Shailene's just breathing. But she walked through, and now Leah gets the bug. So incubation, you are contagious during incubation, and you don't feel sick. So that's one of those tricky things about treating disease. The longer the incubation period is, the more dangerous the disease is, because people can spread it without knowing that they're sick. And this gets into some STDs, some sexually transmitted diseases that have a very long incubation period. Syphilis is one of them. You can get syphilis and spread syphilis for up to 2 years before symptoms show up. So people that are sexually active don't know that they're sick and are getting other people ill, and then, by that point it's too late for some of these people with these crazy lifestyles to try to call up everybody you slept with for the last 2 years and say, you're tested. Right? So that's one of those things. Long incubation periods make diseases very, very dangerous. Tissue destruction is the first thing. You know you're ill. If you don't stop it at that point, then the disease spreads, and it spreads in your body, and it becomes a problem not just where the bug is, because that's where it's eating you, right? But now the waste products of the bug start to spread through your body. And your body has mechanisms for removing your waste products, but it doesn't know how to remove the waste products of a virus or a bacteria or a protist or a worm, because you're not set up that way. So the waste products of the bacteria or the worm or the whatever spread through your body, and you get sick everywhere because you've got worm pee in your blood, and you don't know how to process out worm pee from your blood, and so you get much, much more ill. So this is usually the first stage, like, yeah, something's wrong with me. If you don't go to the doctor, then you get into this stage, and this can kill you. Most of the time, diseases that kill you because the waste product of the pathogen is built up in your body to the point where you no longer can function. So usually when you die of something, that's why. Okay? So those are kind of the stages of disease. Here's some pictures. These are pictures of a bug or a bacteria that eats your liver. This is hepatitis. Okay, you've heard of hepatitis. It comes in a couple of flavors, A, B, and C. You don't want any of them. And most people are vaccinated these days against all 3 flavors of hepatitis. But if you aren't, and if you get hepatitis, then these are pictures of your liver, right? So these are, this is a somewhat early person with hepatitis. You can see there are always some holes in liver tissue because there's blood that pours through it all. It's porous. So some of these holes are normal and natural. But you can see these like inflamed regions that are indicated by arrows, and these are regions of infection. And as the disease progresses, the infection regions get bigger. And then after a certain point, the infected regions get bigger and the holes become more numerous because the bacteria is actually, or the virus in this case, is actually destroying the tissue. So this person, huge holes, right? And these holes, that's not normal. This is the kind of holes that are normal. And here, this person's liver is falling apart. And it's the destruction of the liver and the waste products of the liver being eaten that will eventually kill somebody that has hepatitis. Okay, so those are some of the stages there that you can see. How do you get sick? There are lots of ways to get sick. Airborne infections is by far the most common. That's why the common cold and pneumonia and the flu spread so rapidly. Because when you sneeze or when you cough, you put little aerosol and microscopic droplets of nasty in the air, right? And that's why your mom always told you cover your mouth when you sneeze or when you cough. And it's not just that it's rude, but if you can blow all of your nasty onto your skin and then go wash yourself, you've saved the world by not blowing your nasty in the air, right? because a cough or a sneeze actually goes a long ways. Most people don't realize it. The big pieces of snot that you can see when somebody sneezes only go a little ways because they're big and they're heavy and they fall out of the air. But it's the little snot balls that come out of somebody's mouth and nose when they sneeze that go a long ways. Do you know that when you sneeze, it goes 12 to 15 feet?
Yay!
12 to 15 feet. If you just, right? It's 12 to 15 feet. So let me help you see that. So like the floor tiles are a foot. So if I sneeze right here, okay? I sneeze right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So essentially, if Kiana sneezes, she can hit me at my desk. Okay? And it's not the big pieces that you worry about, because if you get hit in the face with a big piece of snot, you're gonna go wipe it off.
That is so gross.
But if you get hit in the face with an aerosol, microscopic snot ball, you don't know. And you're gonna take a breath. And it's going to come up into your nose, and then Kiana's little snot ball of death has made it into your nostril. And you don't know that you just inhaled her mucus. But along with her little small aerosol snot ball came viruses and bacteria that now live in you. Whoa. Right? Obviously, direct contact we know, and you can usually tell when you are going to get sick because of direct contact. So this happens a lot in families, right? This happens a lot with parents. Poor little Sally is ill, and Sally is puking everywhere, and Sally looks up at you like, please save my life. And you, the older brother, older sister, or parent, you help Sally. You're not going to tell Sally, I'm not going to help you because I might get sick. No, you're going to wipe the puke off the floor. You're going to help her change her clothes. You're going to wash the laundry. And all that time, you are bathing in Sally's pathogens, right? So direct contact happens a lot in families. Direct contact is also, sexual contact. So sexually transmitted disease are spread this way as well. Indirect contact, sort of like direct contact, but indirectly. What do I mean by that? I mean that Sally is sick and her parents take her camping because they think that it's fun, and then while they're camping, they figure out that Sally is sick. She goes from incubating to tissue destruction, and she starts to vomit, and Sally vomits in the river. Right? And mom and dad are like, oh, that's convenient because it all just goes away. And they like take some river water and wash off Sally's face. And then they go home. But downstream, the Utes family is camping. And the Utes family doesn't know that Sally just, hollered for a Buick off the hill, right? And so they're out there and they're playing in the river and they're swimming, and Noah goes swimming and he comes up and he's like, oh, I'm having so much fun! And the water drips down his face and into his mouth. Now it's diluted enough that Sally's vomit doesn't taste like anything anymore, right? But it's there. And Noah got sick by indirect contact. Okay, cool. Contaminations. Same sort of idea as indirect contact, but this usually is widespread, where some creature lives in a lake and its eggs or its babies make people sick, and anybody who drinks from that water is going to get sick. So that's the whole Montezuma's revenge thing, right? Spanish conquistadors can drive out the people, but not the bugs, and the bugs made them all ill. So that's contaminations. This is oftentimes also what happens for big outbreaks of viruses. Hemorrhagic fever and Ebola can be spread by contamination as well. So, wounds. Your skin is amazing. You should praise the Lord sometime in a worship service and say, God, thank you for my skin, because your skin is incredible. It's layers of dead tissue, so bacteria can't make you sick when they're on the top, right? And then the living tissue underneath the dead tissue is always squirting out oils all the time. And when you're pubescent, you need lots of oil, pimples. But later on, your body figures out how to balance that out, and you're okay. So, but it's squishing out oil all the time, and that oil is washing all the bacteria and stuff off of the dead skin. So the bacteria land on your skin, and they're like, I'm gonna make you sick. And the dead skin's like, I'm dead. No, you can't make me sick. And then out come all the oils, and the bacteria gets washed off, and hopefully you take a shower at least, once a week. And so you get all the gunk off of you. Your skin keeps you healthy. Your skin is an amazing benefit. But what happens when you have a wound?
It's open.
Now you have an open wound, right? And then bacteria lands on it, and it's like, I'm gonna make you sick, and you're alive. And the bacteria wiggles into your body, and you get sick. So that's why when you're a kid and you have a boo-boo, your mom and dad always put a Band-Aid on you. Now, for some reason in my mind, Band-Aids are like a kid thing. I don't know.
What?
I almost never use Band-Aids. I get a cut and I'll go wash it and I'll be like, yeah. And I go on about my life, right? One time though, last summer, that was a big problem for me. I got a cut at the beach.
Oh.
And I washed it off and then I went swimming.
Oh.
And I had the most gnarly grapefruit-sized ankle in a couple of days. It was huge and pus-filled. And I actually had to get medication for it. I almost had to be hospitalized. So now I swallow my man pride. And if I get a boo-boo,
You should finally keep
right? But the reason that you put a Band-Aid on is because if you want to cover the wound and keep it from getting infected. Vector carried. These are bugs that carry bugs that make you sick. So dengue fever, right? Dengue fever traveling through the Big Island. We've had a couple of cases here. The mosquitoes fly over and they bite somebody with dengue fever. And the virus that causes dengue fever gets drawn up into the mosquito as the mosquito has its blood meal. And then the mosquito flies over to somebody else and bites that person. And every time a mosquito bites, it's gross. It throws up a little bit before it drinks. So a little bit of the last blood meal goes into the next person.
That's why we swell up, because of the saliva.
Yeah, and so there's always just a little bit of backwash, right, when the mosquito drinks from you. So if it drinks from somebody with dengue fever and then drinks from somebody that doesn't have dengue fever, that second person might get dengue fever from the mosquito bite, okay? Malaria travels that way. There's a really cool disease in Central America. If you ever go to Central America, you need to get vaccinated for Chagas disease. Chagas disease causes grotesque deformations of your body, and you get it from the bite of a little bug called the Regiviidae bug, and it's a blood drinker like the mosquito. And the Regiviidae has analgesics in its saliva, so you don't even feel the bite. Like it numbs the skin immediately when it bites you, so you don't know you got bit, and then you start getting like weird things happening to your body. Yeah, Chagas disease. It's fun. That's a vector. That's another vector carried disease. Immune carriers. This is really scary. This is people who are sick, but their body fights back the disease. They never go from incubating to tissue destruction. They're immune, but they're not so immune that they actually kill the bug. They just keep the bug at bay. They keep a small colony of bug living in their body, which means that they can spread the disease,
You never get sick.
and they themselves never get sick. So they don't know they're sick, but they're spreading it to everybody else. Chlamydia. Chlamydia. You guys heard of this before?
Yeah.
Chlamydia is an STD, a sexually transmitted disease, and almost never do boys show symptoms of chlamydia. There's something about the male chemistry of the body. Guys don't get sick from chlamydia, almost never. Girls get sick from chlamydia. So a promiscuous young man sleeps with a girl that has chlamydia. She's, I'm sure, in the incubating stage because he wouldn't sleep with her if she were expressing symptoms. But she's incubating, she doesn't know she's sick. He sleeps with her. He never gets sick. If it's a one-night stand thing, he never finds out that she developed symptoms later, right? because that's the way that ridiculous lifestyle works. And then he goes on to sow his wild oats to other young ladies. And he doesn't know that he's got
Oh my
chlamydia,
god.
and they all get sick too. So
Promiscuous people.
yes, that's an immune carrier, and that is a really, really terrifying situation. So here's a nice picture of a sneeze. Okay, and this is the little, so the little small aerosol droplets that were captured in this picture, like I said, go 12 to 15 feet when you sneeze. So cover your mouth. Obviously, direct contact. We all know the direct contact will make you sick. This is another kind of indirect contact is door handles and bathroom faucets and phones. Yes, somebody is sick. I've got to go to the bathroom and blow my nose. Doorknob, and then tissue, blow my nose, throw it away, walk outside, right? And doorknob has my nasty. And then the next person just has to potty. Doorknob. Oh.
But they wash their hands.
Hopefully. I was in line in the bathroom at Dole Cannery
People walk
behind
out.
Santa.
Oh my gosh.
Santa was using the urinal at Dole Cannery. I was in line to use the urinal behind Santa. And Santa didn't wash his hands. And then he walked out to Dole Cannery and held a bunch of children. And I was like, oh, it's bad Santa.
I was Santa.
Okay.
And I want to keep it together.
Santa.
Wash your hands.
So,
Wash your hands.
obviously, contamination, we talked about contaminated water sources, open wounds. Open wounds. So this wound got, something happened to it, and then bacteria landed on it, and now that's a secondary infection. There's the vector-driven bugs. Okay, and there's a little belly full of blood.
That's just a nail.
This guy make us scared.
And then this is an immune carrier. This is a healthy young lady who has no idea that she's sick, but she's making everybody else sick. Right? Alrighty. Your body's defenses. What does your body do to try to keep you healthy? Skin is your number one immune organ. Your biggest immune organ in your body is your skin. It keeps the bad things out, and it does a marvelous job of doing that. Very few things can make you sick through your skin. If somebody's blood lands on your skin and you wipe it off in a reasonable amount of time, you're fine. Your skin has all these dead cells on top. It's a great barrier. And then inside your body, you have mucous membranes, the inside of your mouth, your throat, your nose, around your eyeballs. And these mucous membranes are always producing mucus, yes, snot and spit and tears and things of that nature. And the reason you make snot and spit and tears is to wash off all the bugs that land in your holes, right? You have holes, bugs get in your holes. And you want to wash the bugs out of your holes. So that's why there's snot and spit and tears.
What about tears? Tears.
Because bacteria can land on your eyeball, and if there weren't tears flooding your eye, washing that out, then the bacteria could get around you inside the body. Okay? So mucous membranes, flush it out. Beneficial bacteria in your gut outcompete the bad guys. Beneficial bacteria, you have lots of bacteria that should be living inside your intestine. They are your friends. They are your comrades in arms against the bad bugs. So if you have a good healthy flora of bacteria in your gut that are living there happily, then when bad guys move in, right, they land and they want to eat your food that's in your gut, and they want to make you sick and multiply and have lots of babies. But they can't eat the food in your gut because there's so many good guys eating the food first. And they can't get any food for themselves because all the good guys eat the food first, right? So it's as if, you have a terrorist cell that moves into town, and instead of shooting them, all the citizens just go and buy all the food in all the grocery stores, and then the terrorists starve to death, right? That's kind of the picture that we're talking about here. So good bacteria in your gut that outcompete the bad bacteria because there's already billions of them in there, And so the couple of random bacteria that landed there that shouldn't be there can set up house. And then there's non-specific defenses. Things that you do when you get sick right away, and your body can do this quickly without necessarily knowing which kind of bug has made you sick. Inflammation is the first one. When things get big and puffy and red and hot, right? That's because your body has sent a bunch of blood there. So you get cut, and you don't clean it out well, and critters get in, and then that area gets red and puffy and hot. And that's because your body was like, oh, something got in. I don't know what it is yet, but something got in. We're going to send a ton of blood there. It's like weapons placement, right? It's the same reason that we have aircraft carriers and destroyers in the Persian Gulf, because something might go wrong in that region of the world. So we want to have our weapons there ready to go if they're needed, okay? And so inflammation is weapons placement. Your body's immune cells are in the blood. If you've got a boo-boo, let's send a lot of blood there and just see what we need to do. Okay, so inflammation is good. Inflammation, you can take drugs to drive inflammation down. Aspirin removes inflammation, Tylenol removes inflammation. But you got to make sure that you actually want to do that because inflammation has a purpose. Pathogens, sorry, not pathogens, phagocytes. Phagocytes, it's a long A, not a short A. It's not phagocytes. Okay? Phagocytes. Phagao is the Greek word to eat. So at lunch, you're going to go phagao your burger, right? And so phagocytes, site is cell. So these are eating cells. These are all the cells that win the pie eating contest, right? And so they show up and they're like, what's not supposed to be here? I'll eat it, right? So this is the general term for things like white blood cells that show up and they're like, bacteria, nom, 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 viruses, nom, 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 and it eats all of the stuff that could potentially make you sick. Phagocytes, they're kind of like suicide eaters because when they show up and there's bacteria or viruses or something that's not supposed to be there, they eat themselves to death. They will eat so much that they can no longer function as a cell because they're huge and bloated and full of bad things. And then, like Jabba the Hutt. And then they die, and everything inside them dies too. So they're suicide eaters, okay? And when you have a white blood cell that has engorged itself full of things that shouldn't have been there, and then it dies, and you have a whole bunch of those white blood cells that have swelled up and are full of nasty, what do you call that? What do you think you call pus? Yes. Pus are dead white blood cells that have eaten themselves to death. And so you can thank them as you pop your zip that they have removed all of those things that shouldn't have been inside your skin, right? Okay. Fever. Bake the pathogen. Let's make pathogen pie. Most pathogens function only within the realm of your normal body temperature. If your body temperature is not normal, then the pathogen is not in its sweet spot temperature-wise. And bacteria start to die around 106 degrees, 105 degrees, and the closer to that you get, the harder it is for the bacteria to reproduce. So when you get a fever and your mom's like, oh, put you in an ice bath and kill the fever, you're making your body not be able to fight the bug. Now, if your fever lasts too long or gets too high, then you can have brain damage. So, 107 degrees is a problem. But 101, 101 and a half, even 102, you're killing bugs. That's okay. So fever is the response of your body to raise the temperature, pop up the thermostat a little bit. You'll survive. The bacteria will not. Okay? So, again, mucous membranes, your skin is an amazing immune organ. It keeps things out. And when bugs land on the skin, they are pushed away by the dead skin that's sloughing off of your body all the time. Mucous membranes help flush things away. And then inflammation, this person has a boo-boo in their finger. Okay. Yeah, sausage fingers. And sausage fingers, the reason that happens is because there's something wrong in that finger. And so the body is trying to place its weapons and get ready for whatever might happen next. And then phagocytes. Here's a phagocyte eating a yeast cell. So this person has a yeast infection, and the yeast infection is being combated by your body, and until it has other weapons to use, it sends in Pac-Man, and it just eats until it dies. Here's a white blood cell, a phagocyte that is actually roping bacteria and bringing them in towards itself to eat them. It's pretty cool. It sends out these pseudopodia, these little rivers of cytoplasm, and it grabs bacteria as a healer. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, cellular martial arts. Yeah. Obviously, fever. We talked about fever. The hotter you get, the more you kill bacteria. At a certain point, you start to have brain damage. So fevers are good as long as they stay low. When they start to get high or last a long time, then you need to start fighting it. Okay? This is the last slide. Specific defenses. So the non-specific defenses kind of buy your body time. The inflammation, the fever, the phagocytes, they buy your body time to figure out what's wrong with me. They are the first round of defense. And then your body's chemists go to work and are like, what am I getting sick from? What is this creature? And they analyze the bug, and they figure out how to do chemical warfare against your bugs, which is amazing. Praise God for chemical warfare, right? Shortly after you're sick, it usually takes a week or 10 days for your body to cook up the good stuff. But your body will analyze the creature making you sick and will figure out a chemical weapon to destroy it. It's amazing. It's amazing what happens. And the chemical weapon that is made is called an antibody. And then your body floods yourself with the antibody. And the antibody goes everywhere, not just the infection. So if the infection has started to spread, once your body is making the antibodies, you're good. Because you will be flooded with this chemical weapon. And everywhere that pathogen exists, it will die. Which is why most colds and flus, the doctor tells you it's going to last 7 to 10 days. Because it takes your body 7 to 10 days to figure out how to build the antibody. And once it builds it, you're fine. Because the bug starts to die. And it'll die everywhere, and you'll be okay. So it's very, very rare for somebody to die from the cold or from the flu. That only happens if your body never figures out the chemical weapon that is needed. Okay? And then interferon. Interferon is another chemical weapon that's only useful against viruses. Interferon, remember that a virus is made inside your cells and then breaks out of the cells. And the last stage before the virus assembles itself inside your cells and ruptures in the life cycle is where all the protein coat pieces are being put together around the virus's DNA. It's the final assembly stage. Interferon interferes. It gets in the way of the assembling of those protein coats. And so the cell is trying to obey the virus and build new viruses, but it can't because the parts don't fit. And so the cell's like, yeah, well, I can't make this. The parts don't fit. Sorry, I tried to be a good infected cell, but I can't. And the interferon gets in the way, so the virus can't be assembled, so it doesn't spread. Okay? Interferon is a good chemical weapon to have. It only works against viruses. And then memory cells. This is an amazing thing. Praise God for memory cells. Memory cells remember how to make the chemical weapon that killed the bug. So let's say, Brianna's had chickenpox. I already know that. We've already had that conversation. Brianna has had chickenpox. Brianna's body fought back the varicella zoster virus. And it's still living in here somewhere because it doesn't completely go away. That bug remains for the rest of your life. But mostly, it's in hard retreat, right? And her body remembered the chemical weapon that it used to kill the virus and make her not have chickenpox. And so these memory cells, they go sort of dormant in a lymph node somewhere in your body, and they are the machine to make that chemical weapon again. So now somebody around her gets chickenpox, and and the virus gets back into Brianna's body, and Brianna's like, oh, I know how to kill this. And the memory cell wakes up and mass produces the toxin, and you don't get sick because it kills the bug right away. Okay, this is why you never get infected by the same bacteria or virus twice. Because the first time you make the antibody, your body will forever remember how to make that antibody. And if that bug ever gets inside you again, you kill it before you know you're sick. And then obviously we have medications. There are two basic kinds of medications that help with disease. One of them is an antibiotic, which interferes with bacterial metabolism. And the bacteria starve to death because they're living in you, but they can't eat. And so they starve to death. That's what an antibiotic does, but it only works with bacteria. If you have the cold or the flu or pneumonia, and you take an antibiotic, and it's a viral disease, it doesn't do anything for you. So you're just wasting the drug. An antiviral is kind of like an artificial interferon. This is your body's way of getting viruses to not assemble. We are figuring out drugs that keep viruses from assembling. This is a brand new region of medicine that's only in about the last 15 years been something we've been able to do. So there are new antivirals hitting the market and in testing and things like that. But mostly we have antibiotics, and mostly they're only with bacteria things. Okay? I think just a couple more pictures. So this is a graphic representation of antibodies attacking the virus. Your body has figured out what the chemical weapon is that will kill the thing, and it has flooded you with them, and so you're getting better. Lymph nodes. This is where memory cells live, and your lymph system is made up of all of these little tubes and nodes, and the nodes are where the memory cells live, so these are the parts of your body that remember how to fight the diseases you've had in the past. Okay? Antibiotics, this is a classic picture of an antibiotic test where you grow bacteria in a plate, and then you put these little tablets of antibiotics in the plate, and some antibiotics are ineffective against the bacteria, and the bacteria keeps growing. And this would be a positive test where you put the tablet in and everything around the tablet dies. And so this antibiotic kills this kind of bacteria. Okay, those are the kinds of tests that they do there. And then if you go to the doctor and you tell the doctor, I need an antibiotic, and the doctor says, you have a virus, this is Batman telling Bob. I think I need antibiotics for my cold. Cold is a virus. You don't need an antibiotic for that, right? Okay, there you go. Cool, that's it. I love bugs. Have a great day.